Is another edition of the On the Mic podcast. And I know the calls to get him back on the MMA hour have been loud, proud, and strong. And sorry, I'm not Ariel, but no better performance this past weekend at Bellator to come in short notice. A man with the best hair in MMA, one of the best fights of this year, the one and only Aaron Jeffery. Sir, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. So sorry, not Ariel, but I think as someone who's learned a lot from Ariel, I think we'll have a good conversation. But man, you step in relatively very short notice to fight Austin Vanderford, beat Austin Vanderford. I know we had some connection issues, so I'm kind of repeating questions here, but what was it like getting the call to take the fight? What was it like the process of getting to the fight from a training aspect and all of that?
It was fast, man. There was not really any time to process anything. Like from the time the fight was a potential to fight night was like an 8 or 9 day process. So like I got word that it might happen. We got the contract, and then a few days later, I'm already like flying out to South Dakota and getting medicals done and fight week shit, man. So yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind. It was all very fast.
And I know I'm repeating questions, but this was something for you that it was more of, I don't have a lot of time for much. We're just gonna meet in the middle, me and Austin Vanderford, and we're gonna throw, and we're gonna see who's the better fighter. And clearly, it was you.
Yeah, I was confident going into the fight. I mean, he was his style is like the perfect fight for short notice for me. I train with a lot of wrestlers all the time. I'm very confident in my defensive wrestling. So to me, it was a no-brainer to take an opportunity like that.
Now, for you, was this more of when you're getting the fight? Is it because if you look at obviously anyone who follows your career, they know you're active, they know you like to stay busy. Is this something where you were like, all right, this is another fight, another opportunity for me to kind of stake my claim just as myself? Or were you like, oh no, I'm better than Austin Vanderford and I'm going to go shake up this division in Bellator?
Yeah, man. No, like I said, I was confident in the matchup right from the get-go. I spoke to my management about it a few weeks before. It was kind of weird because that they were telling me all the Bellator events were like booked up till October, November, and I was like, fuck, I really don't want to wait that long. I said maybe this Anthony Adams guy will get hurt and I can step in and fight Vanderford. And they're like, yeah, you never know, crazy things happen in the sport. And then a couple of weeks later, they called me and they're like, hey, man, were you serious about that Vanderford fight? And I'm like, yeah, why? And they said, well, Adams is injured and he's going to pull out, so we're putting you in. So, yeah, it was crazy. And, yeah, like I said, I was confident, and that's why I asked for it.
So we got Conor McGregor back in the day calling his exact shots to put away opponents. And we got Aaron Jeffery calling out future opponent changes and his next opponent. That's awesome, man. Listen, one of the main reasons I was very excited to talk to you, one, because I can say I'm personally a huge fan of you as a person, as a fighter, but also like you've gotten through so many obstacles, throughout your career, and you've taken really the road less traveled to get to where you're at today, the 6th ranked middleweight inside Bellator MMA. And I'll go back to 2021 in a second, but just being a part of Bellator after winning the CFFC middleweight title, what has it been like being a part of Bellator for you? I know it's 2 fights in, but how's that been like for you?
They're awesome, man. They're really great. Everyone is super professional. It's a well-oiled machine. There's never any questions of what's going on. Where am I supposed to be? What do my medicals need to be? Where do I got to go? Like it's just, yeah, a very well-oiled machine. Smooth. They're very nice to me. They treat me well. So I'm enjoying it a lot so far.
Yeah, and obviously you're gonna make you've made some noise inside the middleweight division. We'll talk about that. But when I reference the the road less traveled, you had an appearance in 2021 on Dana White Contender Series, and that night was not yours. But man, I think crazier things have happened in this sport, right? Like you just found your own legacy, you found your new path, and really when you look back on that night, it's very rare to say this, and please understand, I mean this with no disrespect. May that possibly have been one of the best things to happen to you in your career, that you didn't get that win that night?
Yeah, it's hard to say, man, because you never know what would have happened if I did get the win that night. Same thing when I was on Contender Series in 2019. I remember my coaches telling me I lost to Brendan Allen. This is the best thing that could happen to you. Like, you need to take this loss now and whatever. And who knows, maybe I beat Brendan Allen and now I'm the UFC champ, or maybe I win the fight last year in Contender Series and now I'm the UFC champ. You'll never know, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now.
I would say so. What is it like for you? Obviously, like you said, you mentioned 2019, 2021. When you go through those kind of, I guess, roller coaster rides of, I don't want to say downfalls, but in your career, where you're now looking for the next step. And obviously after in 2021, you went to CFFC, you won the title and then worked your way and got to Bellator. What was it like for you personally, whether it be in the gym or when you're outside of the gym and you're just kind of envisioning your career path? If you could take me kind of through what that was like for you.
It's a good question, man. I think a lot of us as fighters, we don't like sit back to enjoy the process or really take it all in. Especially like these last couple months for me, it's all happened so fast. I went from still being signed to CFFC, then we get a Bellator contract, then I win my debut, then all of a sudden I'm fighting number 2, and now I'm in the rankings, man. So I don't know. Again, it's all just happening very fast right now, so it's kind of hard for me to sit back and appreciate it.
I was gonna say, has it hit you yet? Like everything you just laid out?
No, man, it's crazy. This will be breaking news right now. I don't know if any other media sites or anything know, but I just I got a new contract yesterday from Bellator also. And I had a few drinks last night. I was pretty drunk. My manager called me and told me about this new deal. And I woke up this morning and I was like, damn, man, that actually happened last night. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm at a pretty good spot right now in my career. I'm happy.
Well, let me be the first to thank you for breaking that. Also, because not a lot of people break news on this podcast. It's more just a nice, fun conversation. So I appreciate that. If you don't mind me asking, how many fights is it for?
6 fights.
6 fights. So, I mean, obviously now it's the Aaron Jeffery show in Bellator MMA in the middleweight division. You get the big win. Let me ask you this, because, and I know you're a very respectful guy. Anyone who watches your career, you just come in, you kind of punch in and punch out, no pun intended, right? You hit the time card, you hit it out, and you just continue on your ways. But Austin Vanderford, for better or for worse, has taken so much criticism because he's Mr. Van Zandt, or Paige Van Zandt's husband. Obviously, you were respectful, but understanding and confident that you were the better fighter between the two of you. But what did you make of him as a fighter, in his position, in the rankings that he had coming into this? Did you have respect for Austin where he was?
Yeah, man, he's good. Like, I was confident in my skill set to beat him, but I knew it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. Like, he's an elite athlete, man. He was number 2 fighting for the title for a reason. And obviously you saw me on Ariel yesterday saying, like, I don't like when people are hating on this guy so much and whatever. And I think me saying that in the interview kind of had the opposite effect, because you read the comments on it, and again, it's just everyone shitting on Austin. But no, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great athlete. I hope he comes back and makes his way back up to the top.
Yeah, I really love this aspect of this sport, when you can find a fighter like yourself who has so much respect towards opponents and former opponents. It's really, I tip my cap to you, because it's a breath of fresh air in this sport. All right, man. So here we are, number 6 in the middleweight division, and a new contract. Again, thank you for that. But with that, like, what's next for you?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be someone in the top 10. There's an event in Long Beach, California, in October. And then there's one, I think, at the Mohegan Sun again in December. Both those dates sound good to me. Yeah, I don't know. We're just going to see what Bellator wants to do with me. If they want to put me against someone like above me, like top 5, or am I going to fight someone below me, lower in the top 10? We'll find out soon, I'm sure.
I was going to say, and I don't play matchmaker, and I have no inside sources because I'm obviously not Ariel. But, just looking at the schedule of how everything kind of played out over the last few weeks in Bellator, I would never speak for you, but I would think you'd want to face somebody, above you in the rankings. Dalton Rusta just fought not too long ago. What do you think of that matchup?
Yeah, I like that matchup too.
Yeah, I mean, again, if Bellator watches these things, you can sign me up for that. For you in your career, always being so active and staying busy like this, what's kind of been the thing or the mindset towards that? You said before the Vanderford fight, like, I don't want to wait. Is it more of staying busy, keeping your name out there, keeping your fights right in front of everybody so you can get the best opportunity? Or is this like, man, I'm just a martial artist. I love doing this sport so much, and I want to continue to grow?
There was a period like earlier in my career where I was not as active. I had a 2-year layoff, then I had a couple fights, then I had another 1-year layoff. So for a while after that, I just kind of felt like I was making up for lost time and like trying to bang out some fights quickly. Like I'm not super young as a fighter, so I just wanted to get more experience in. Now at this point, I mean, I only get paid when I'm fighting, so that's a big part of it. And you just feel more comfortable in there when you're there often, right? You have like a 8 or 12 month layoff or something, you feel a little bit of ring rust. It's not as comfortable. I just fought 6 or 7 weeks apart, and the second time I was in there, it felt very comfortable and natural.
I'm going to cross the border for my next couple questions, and I do appreciate you making the time today. Can you talk to me about your team at Niagara and just, you know, a lot of fighters feel like they got to escape to these top, you know, big name, state of the art, world class, you know, institutions for fight camps. You found your team, and man, it's hard to argue the results. What is it about your team and you and the connection that makes it so special?
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening, man. I think our head coach there, Chris Prickett, is probably the best MMA coach in the world. I've been to a lot of different gyms, a lot of big gyms, high level guys, high level coaches, and I really do think he's the best. We got a lot of top guys right now, young guys on the way up. Guys are young and hungry. They're working hard consistently every day, and yeah, it's just like a good team atmosphere. I also got a shout out to there's another gym that I train at. They don't get as much notice, but it's Aegis MMA. It's in Oakville, and my other head coach Lyndon Whitlock's there. He's my striking coach. They got a lot of good guys coming up too. We're kind of like sister gyms. We cross train with each other a lot. We're basically one team.
And I know you've probably seen this or been asked this online and in other interviews, but Rory McDonald, other countryman, you know, called it a career, former Bellator world champion. Obviously, you got to have George St. Pierre as number one, but just two-part question here. Would you say Rory McDonald second most successful Canadian fighter of all time? And how would you kind of sum up what he's meant to Canadian MMA?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who else you could put in that number two. It's got to be him, right? It's kind of crazy to see him retiring now, because I started watching the sport and getting into it. He was like the very young up and coming guy. He looked like a kid in there fighting men, and now he's the old guy that's retiring, man. So it's kind of crazy to see.
I gotta ask too, and it's not just, oh, you're from Canada and I see it a different way, but so often, especially, and you know, you're not far from the States, but especially in the other pro sports, you know, basketball, football, baseball, sometimes not even hockey really, but those three that kind of take up America, everything's about the glitz and the glam and the you know, the headlines and all of that. And it kind of can be said the same for combat sports. You know, those who talk the most get the most attention, but if you follow the sport, you know Aaron Jeffery, and you don't need to come in and run your mouth or go crazy and kind of stir up all sorts of drama and attention. What is it about you? Is it something you learned along the way, something from a coach, where you just have this respectful approach to the fight game, and it's really kind of turned into a very successful career?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'm not a good actor, and I'm introverted. And I couldn't be that way even if I wanted to be. I've always just kind of been myself, and somewhere along the way realized people enjoy it, they like it. I got some fans along the way, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, keep being me.
I know you said you're open to whatever Bellator gives you next, but and we mentioned a guy like a Dalton Rusta, and you know, you kind of laid out a timeline, but and there's no denying that you came in and made a massive statement against Austin Vanderford. You put this entire division on notice. What is your message to Bellator, to the rest of the fighters in your division, and to the fans about now the injection, not the inclusion, but the injection of Aaron Jeffery and the Bellator's middleweight division?
Yeah, it feels good, man. I hope there's like finally some respect on my name now. I know a lot of people online saying like I'm always the guy that lost on Contender Series, couldn't win the big fight. He's in Bellator now, he couldn't make it to the show. So I just hope I'm getting some respect finally.
Well, I'll say this, and I'll vouch for you and for many others on that Bellator MMA roster. And I think you kind of proved it, right? I don't think the promotion speaks to the talent all the time. And that's not a knock on Bellator or the UFC. I don't think one or which way defines who you are. I think Bellator is very happy to have you. I think you're very happy with Bellator. You just kind of said that earlier in this interview. So I kind of hate that narrative of if you're not with the UFC, you're not successful. So I want to thank you for making the time today and breaking some news. That feels kind of good for me over here on this end. But I'm truly a fan of you inside the cage, outside the cage. So what are we thinking? October, November, you'd like to be back in there?
Something like that, yeah.
Well, the matchups are probably going to be a plenty for you moving forward. Congrats on the 6-fight deal. And just because it's my personality, I have to ask, since you were having drinks, what were you drinking?
What was I drinking? I had some whiskeys and then I had some Bud Light seltzers or something.
I like it. Irish whiskey. What kind of whiskey were you having?
What was it? Canadian Club? So we had Crown Royal.
I like it. All right. Well, next time you fight, I'll make sure to have some whiskey on deck for you. And hopefully before your next fight, we could talk again. And I really appreciate you making the time today.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.